The Supreme Court just upheld the ban on TikTok, and here's something that nobody is talking about that I would like to share with you. There is 3 branches of the United States federal government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The TikTok ban went almost unanimously through the legislative branch, which is Congress and the Senate. Then it skated right on over to President Biden's desk, executive branch, and he signed it into law. Then the ban went all the way through the court system, all the way up to the highest court in the land of the United States of America, the Supreme Court, and they upheld the ban. Now, I agree. It is damn sad that 7 million people just got laid off. I'm sad for myself, I'm sad for future creators, and I'm sad for the millions of small businesses out there who rely on this app to make a living. But the saddest part of this entire thing is that the United States government just looked its people square in the face, right in the eyeballs, and said, your voice doesn't matter, and it never did. They sell you the American dream. They sell you the freedoms that you think you have, and then they turn around, they strip you from them, and they said there's not a thing that you can do about it. Fascist countries ban apps.
TikTok will officially be banned in the United States Sunday, January 19th. The Supreme Court has decided to uphold the ban, saying there is no doubt that for more than 170 million Americans, TikTok offers a distinctive and expansive outlet for expression, means of engagement, and source of community. But Congress has determined that divestiture is necessary to address its well-supported national security concerns regarding TikTok's data collection practices and relationship with a foreign adversary, which basically translates to, we know y'all like TikTok, but it's gotta go. Now, whether the app will completely go dark or not once the 19th comes around is unclear, because TikTok themselves did say that the app will go dark for users starting on Sunday. But Biden, who got us here in the first place, is trying to prevent a full blackout and basically make it so that, 1, the app can still be usable to US users who already have it, 2, the ban won't be enforced, and that as of right now, there's no intention to enact fines on app stores and tech companies that would continue to allow access to the app, which, let's be honest, what app store executive will even want to allow that, considering the potential liabilities? And 3, it'll be ultimately up to the Trump administration to implement it or not. So what are Trump's options? He could do the thing he's known for and sign an executive order to reinstate the app, which he has said he plans on doing. That would pause the law until a final deal is reached. But the key here is the deal part, because if there's no movement being made to actually facilitate a deal, and the deal being having ByteDance, which is the Chinese company that owns TikTok, divest from it, which they said they would not be doing, then the executive order wouldn't be legally sound, and it could be escalated in court and end up actually happening anyway. And if that doesn't work out, he can just simply choose not to enforce it. So TikTok would technically be banned by law, but it just wouldn't actually be applied. But again, that's far too much of a liability, and I'm pretty sure any app store executives will not be trying to risk it, despite Trump's relationship to the tech bros of the world. But honestly, who knows what's gonna happen? Maybe Trump will use his self-proclaimed business prowess and figure out a deal. Because the CEO of TikTok posted a video actually thanking Trump for his efforts so far.
Hi everyone, it's Show here. As you know, we have been fighting to protect the constitutional right to free speech for the more than 170 million Americans who use our platform every day to connect, create, discover, and achieve their dreams. On behalf of everyone at TikTok and all our users across the country, I want to thank President Trump for his commitment to work with us to find a solution that keeps TikTok available in the United States.
And Trump also just posted this on his Truth Social account, talking about a supposed conversation between him and the president of China about TikTok, amongst a few other things. So yeah, here we are. And as far as where we are even is, I don't know, because things are just constantly changing. Like, as of right now, the ban is still happening, but the clock is ticking, and so many people's not just entertainment, but also livelihoods are on the line. And we're in what feels like purgatory. I honestly didn't think we'd get to this point. I thought that by now some type of resolution would be made, but then again, I think that's being a bit too generous in faith in the US government. And of course, people aren't taking this lightly, at least not in the name of data security. And rightfully so. A lot of people feel like, 1, the ban is an overreaction to a perceived threat, because the US does the same thing. US social media apps are also collecting user data. I mean, Facebook has literally gotten in trouble multiple times for their use or misuse of data. 2, people feel like they're basically being censored because TikTok is the only social media app where there isn't direct US influence and therefore control over the topics and conversations that gain traction, especially the ones that call the US into question.
Fascist countries ban apps. Fascist countries ban websites. Fascist countries ban apps and websites under the guise of threats to national security, when every other country knows it's about suppressing the free speech of its citizens. If the government believes that a single app could, quote from the hearing on the 10th, skew the perspective of American citizens to be anti-American, maybe the real problem is that American citizens are already in such a state of political unrest and unhappiness that our government is scared a single foreign influence could tip the scale and have it all be over. Don't you think that by taking away the, and I quote, key communications channel of Americans, it's gonna make those 170 million Americans a little more anti-American? Maybe Congress knows and understands that. Maybe the government knows that the backlash it will receive from banning TikTok does not outweigh the threats that come with its existence. Not in a matter of national security, but in a matter of being the most popular news and media outlet that the government cannot control, like American-owned broadcasting networks and publications. Maybe, if this was actually a national security concern, the government would be banning all Chinese-developed apps, like Shein and Temu, that collect the exact same amount of data as TikTok. Because maybe it knows TikTok is something special. You can't politically organize on Temu. If TikTok goes dark, the government deliberately and knowingly took away your free speech. Do not accept national security for an answer, ever.
And 3, quite frankly, many people don't even care if China has their data.
I surrender all my data to China. Here you go, China. In exchange for keeping my TikTok, you can have all my information. US government.
I'm just going to literally call the Chinese government and set up a monthly recurring data transfer program from my data to their government. That Mark Zuckerberg guy, like, he wants to do the absolute least and take the absolute most in terms of my data. Like, I remember when people used to work hard for my data, and no one wants to do that anymore. Like, literally no one wants to work anymore. The Chinese government wants my data, like, they've worked hard for it at this point. What happened to the free market? What happened to the best ideas win? Like, now it's just like, oh, the worst idea is called Daddy Supreme Court and then ban the competition.
Especially because the average TikTok user, and probably 99% of US TikTok users, is not some like high-ranking military or government official with sensitive stuff on their phones. Which, by the way, TikTok has been banned on government-issued mobile devices since 2023, and like, okay, that makes sense. TikTok is an extremely popular app here. It's literally used by 1/3 of adults in the US as one of their primary entertainment platforms, and half of those users get their news from there. A number that has actually doubled since 2020 when the app first started to get really popular here. And I can say anecdotally, as a social media user who also works in social media, TikTok is a huge player in the social media ecosystem and media ecosystem in general. It's fundamentally changed how people get famous, launching music careers, taking people from their high school and college hallways to collabs with big name brands. It's brought social movements to the forefront. It's influenced in-person retail. It's spearheaded trends. And it's become so powerful that it's forced other social media platforms to prioritize TikTok-like content via short form. It might sound cheesy or like an overstatement to some, but TikTok has changed the lives of so many people, even if it's by way of just giving them something to look forward to when it's the end of the day and they're scrolling in bed. And ironically enough, with the initial concern of the US government wanting to minimize access China has to US user data, this ban has only pushed people into the arms of China, because now people are moving over to Rednote, which is basically China's TikTok and one of China's biggest social media platforms at that. The app is now #1 on the Apple App Store and the top ranked app on the Google Play Store. According to a Reuters report, in just 2 days, more than 700,000 new users have joined the platform, and people are calling everyone moving on there TikTok refugees. I haven't downloaded the app myself, but people who have are reporting back, and apparently the Chinese community on there is being so open and accepting.
Hello, TikToker refugees from the US. Welcome to the Red Book, which we call it in Chinese 小红书. I can tell you how to speak Chinese, how to make friends here, and how to use the Red Book, what you should avoid here, and how to attract more followers here.
And there's even community being found between the two populations, with some Americans helping some Chinese people with their English homework. And China itself has even responded to this mass migration.
关于你提到的其他的社交媒体，我们认为使用何种社交媒体是个人的选择。作为原则，中方一向支持和鼓励与各国加强人文交流，促进民心相通。
Now, some of the core differences between TikTok and Rednote is that there are prohibited topics specifically around politics. And there is a general standard of content and cultural sensitivity. So Americans are telling other Americans to basically be mindful of this and behave so it can remain open to them as users.
If you're going over to Rednote, remember, that's not our home. TikTok is our home. That's great, but TikTok's being shut down. We are refugees. We are going over to Rednote. If that's where we're going over to Rednote. We need to be respectful. We need to make sure that we recognize their culture, and we need to fit into their culture. We're not there to make the place over. We're there to fit into the culture that already exists. Please don't screw this up. We're just visitors, and people on Rednote are being real nice and letting us in. But it's not our home, it's theirs.
And I know there are probably people wondering why people are moving to a completely foreign app instead of going back to Instagram or another established US social media platform. And that's because every other existing social media app available does not carry the essence of TikTok. One of the core things that separates TikTok from other social media platforms is its algorithm. It really does such an excellent job at giving you things that are meaningful to you while throwing in the occasional thing that you might be interested in. Another thing that separates it is how quick and to the point it is without all the fluff that you see on other apps, which makes it significantly more authentic. Also, the nature of the trends on there that are TikTok specific, and the fact that because it is such a fast-paced platform, people almost feel as though they can be a bit more unhinged in ways that you just can't be elsewhere. Like when people go to post on Instagram, it's to flex and drop some heavily curated content piece about their lives or their work to keep up appearances, and it feels like it's a popularity contest. Like posting on Instagram feels like you're asking for attention, like you're saying, hey, look at me. And then with Facebook, like people just go on there to keep up with family or aren't even using it much at all, at least not in the ways that they're using TikTok. And X is a mess and just not nearly the same because it is a primarily text-based platform, and YouTube is great and yeah, people use it, but the Shorts tab just doesn't hit the way the TikTok For You page does, because most of the content on YouTube Shorts is usually repurposed content that was made for other platforms anyway. And all in all, whether you're on YouTube or Instagram or X or Facebook, the fact of the matter is that the user experience is just not the same. No other already existing social media app as it stands currently can replicate or replace the sauce that makes TikTok what it is. So that said, will Rednote replace TikTok? I don't think so, based off the fact that it's just way too censored in the ways TikTok isn't. Like, too much stuff is deemed sensitive on there that I don't see it having the same impact that TikTok does, because a huge part of that impact is related to politically censored conversation, which goes against Rednote's terms of service. Also, as an American, I will say this, like collectively as a people, as a population of people, we're pretty wild. But one thing I do know is that if this ban actually becomes a permanent thing, it's gonna leave a stain on the US government's reputation in the eyes of so many people, particularly young people, who are getting a first-hand look at how this country prioritizes banning a silly little app while so many other dire things are going on. And it's very evident what the impacts and implications are of putting a full ban on TikTok, considering so many Americans depend on it for their livelihoods. And also the fact that it's not lost on us that this sets a really dangerous precedent for censorship, free speech, and the dissemination of information, because what's next? Who's to say that this won't happen again in the name of safety? It creates a slippery slope, and that's not even including the fact that this ban is being spearheaded by people in government who won't have to worry about it impacting them and are, quite frankly, completely out of touch with it all.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe, a winner. A winner.
So what should you be doing right now if you're on TikTok? For starters, save as much of your content as you can, especially prioritizing content pieces that have performed the best for you on the platform, because it's safe to say those will also perform well when and if repurposed on other platforms. You can do this in-app but it'll keep the TikTok watermark attached. And if you plan on repurposing your TikTok content over on Instagram, you want to make sure it doesn't have the TikTok watermark, because Instagram has said themselves that they do suppress content with watermarks from other platforms. So in order to do this, you can use TikTok extractor sites like SSSTik, which I personally use all the time, and it lets you extract TikTok videos in HD quality too. I'll leave the link in the description. Another thing you should be doing, and honestly should have been doing for some time now, is moving people from your TikTok over to other platforms. I recommend just making like a standard TikTok dedicated to letting people know what other platforms you'll be on, and also closing out each video you do post from now going forward with a call to action, letting people know where else you are online and plugging it in your caption area. It sounds like overkill, but I think given the current situation, it's completely appropriate. Well, that's all I have for you on the TikTok ban and where we currently stand. I hope the next time we meet on this topic, it is with good news. But until then, for more on all things social media, so news, culture, and the occasional 101, hit that subscribe button. Till next time.